See, when we deny matter, everything we consider to be matter will go away, including health, money, love, people, flat-screen TVs, okay. Things we value but have unconsciously mistaken for matter. So I encouraged you before to look at the good in your life and categorize it as either matter or substance. When we regard what we value as spiritual substance, there is no danger of losing it when we make our denials. Okay. For example, if we want to keep our love and expand it, we must see our love as the natural expression of the divine, so we name it God. If we want to keep our money and expand it, we must see our money as infinite intelligence and action, so we name it God. If we want to keep our health and expand it, we must see health as an emanation of spirit, so we name it God. Now, I just said that whole thing in about 1 minute and 27 seconds. How come it took me 34 minutes to say it the last time? I guess I'm getting smarter. But the gist of my message was that until we recognize the good in our lives as spirit in form rather than material effect, that good is precarious, transitory, and fleeting. The highest name of God, which is good, cannot possibly be associated with the precarious, the transitory, or the fleeting. The name of God can only be applied to divine stuff. So, if we want our health, our money, and our relationships to abide, to increase, improve, and expand, we must recognize them as divine stuff, as spiritual substance, as God in action. Now, most of my students have been thinking a lot about matter versus substance, and they've been practicing denials, and so have I. And it's very, very effective, I have to tell you. And those of you who heard my talk a few weeks ago and have consulted with me are experimenting with it too and finding it very effective. But I have to tell you that recently it felt to me like something was missing. So I needed to figure out what that thing was that was missing. In naming my good and viewing it as God, I realized the piece that was missing was me. My process was happening out here, that it was very intellectual, still effective, and brilliantly articulated, I must say. But not so connected. Did anyone else have that experience? Okay. I realize I need to be able to see myself in the process, intimately involved, not as an outsider, not as a spectator, not even just as a participant, but as a key player. Okay? So the good, God, and me. Not three separate entities, but three crucial parts of one perfect process. When we approach our good in this way, we remain true to the teachings of our founder, Ernest Holmes, who claimed that the concept of unity is the mystical secret of the ages and the key to spiritual wisdom. Unity. That's the thing. That's the thing. So rather than just counting our blessings, let's acknowledge our good in a systematic way that increases it, that identifies it as spirit and form, and that recognizes our connection to it. That's what I was able to figure out these last couple of weeks, the connection to it. So we begin by evaluating the good in our lives and differentiating between material effect and spiritual substance. This is a very powerful step, but by itself, it's not enough. We must see how we ourselves fit into the picture. We must understand that our demonstration and enjoyment of the good depend on the extent to which we are living in conscious unification with the divine. Not only are we in unity, we need to be aware of that unity. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been researching it. I must have pulled 36 books off the shelves, not the high ones, just the ones I could reach without getting the ladder. looking for inspiration. And I found it, not surprisingly, in the Upanishads. And I say not surprisingly because, for me at least, Hinduism is the most parallel philosophy to our own, to science of mind. While the Upanishads are ancient descriptions of mystical experiences, they don't ask us to abandon our humanness in order to unify with the divine. Rather, they speak of actual profound religious experiences taking place in daily life. Now, as metaphysicians, we know what that means, don't we? We're familiar with these kinds of occurrences because we have them, not infrequently. We know how to make the mundane into the sacred by way of our recognition, our love, and our gratitude. We can point to anything and call it God when we speak the truth about it, because the truth of everything is God. A recurring prayer in the Upanishads includes the phrase, "Filled with God are the things we see. Filled with God are the things we see not." Isn't that beautiful? Filled with God are the things we see. Filled with God are the things we see not. So let's look more closely at how the Upanishads can inform our discussion of good, God, substance, unity, and gratitude. That's what we're talking about, in case you hadn't figured that out. So I've chosen to interpret my 5 favorite Upanishads for our lesson today in the form of affirmations. And if you like them, actually email me and I'll send you a copy. The first one is, life in the world and life in the spirit are not incompatible. This is ancient Hinduism, but doesn't it sound just like our stuff? Life in the world and life in the spirit are not incompatible. Here's my affirmation. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. It is not necessary to abandon the world in order to live in the divine. When we bring our sacred self to each and every moment, let us name our life in all its facets, God the good, and give thanks for it. The second one, the power behind every activity of nature and every activity of humankind is the power of God. Here's the affirmation. Not only what we have, but what we do is divine substance. The activity of our work is spirit and form. The motion of our bodies is spirit and form. The accomplishment of our tasks is spirit and form. The achievement of our goals is spirit and form. Let us name all we do God the good and give thanks for it. Number 3, since the myriad objects of the senses are merely emanations of God, to know them in themselves is not enough. The affirmation, everything we see, hear, smell, touch, and taste is spirit in form. Beyond our sensory perception of people, places, and things lies the divine substance of all people, all places, and all things. By surpassing the objects of our senses, we come to know those objects as spiritual substance. Let us name every such object God the good and give thanks for it. Number 4, we, in our ignorance, identify ourselves with the material sheaths that encompass our true self. Transcending these, we become one with God. The affirmation, the world of effect is transient and unreliable. At the level of truth, our essence is identical to the divine essence. Rising above appearances, we unify with the power that created us. Let us name the truth of our being, God the good, and give thanks for it. And the last one, number 5. The divine self is the dearest of all things, and only through the divine self is anything else dear. Everything we value, everything we hold dear, evokes such a feeling in us because it is God made manifest. We begin with God, the good. Only by loving the source can we love anyone or anything else. Let us name all we hold dear, God the good, and give thanks for it.